Hello, 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 and welcome back to Not As I Do with Tanaye White. Me! Thank you guys for returning back to this segment. I'm really excited to continue this journey with y'all. I hope you're all doing well. Firstly, it's holiday season. Thanksgiving is just 4 days away, and as you can tell by the background, I am not home. I am at my parents' house, love them to death. I'll be here for the week. So I figured rather than skipping this week, I sort of blend both of my passions into one. So I am filming here today with you from Annapolis, Maryland. So thank you for joining, and let's get this baby started. Let's jump into the vibe check. So I've been thinking long and hard about this vibe check that I'm about to do, and I'm a bit nervous about it because it does require me calling out someone who I do love and care for. And I truly hope that I don't offend anyone when I express the experiences that I'm about to tell, but I also hope that you guys hold an open mind as I go through these details, because I think that a lot of people have experienced this. Right now, I'm going to talk about the election. Wait. Don't worry. I'm not going to get into all of the red pill, blue pill talk. I'm not going to get into that. But I wanted to highlight a conversation that I had recently with a dear friend. Now, let me lay the groundwork. This friend is someone who I value a lot. We've gone through a lot of unique experiences together. This friend is such a good friend of mine that I have a photo of her in my house that she gave to me. This friend is so valuable and important to me that I even have jewelry with her face in it. Okay? So when I tell you that I had decided to fully step away from this friendship, it was not an easy decision. And this decision came from this person's support of Donald Trump. Let me dive a little deeper. Firstly, this person is beautiful, talented, and all the things. I have nothing bad to say, but I was really disappointed in how they reacted to questions that I had posed to them once I started seeing them posting Trump-related content on their platform, Instagram stories to be specific. So this friend, she posted something on her story that was in relation to the military woman who was sexually assaulted and then lit on fire. Horrible story, very enraging anytime I even think about it. And so this friend shared a news article referencing that story, and then she added text below it, and it says something along the lines of, "This is why we need Trump." Let me just read it to you. And just for a little back context, in 2020, when there was the election going on, I was very vocal and emotional about all of the things that were happening at that time. We saw the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. It's just, I would describe 2020 as a very dark year for humanity, and more specifically, humanity in America. I was very vocal about my distaste for Trump, and I made several, I believe, messages on my Instagram stories and in feed about how superficial support of Black people is not going to be sufficient during this time, and that if you support a man who lacks morals like he does, I want you nowhere near me or my family. No harm, no foul, but just stay away from me. And I said that. I wrote that and everyone knew it. I don't think you really have to question my opinions when you look at this face and you see this hair. I am a Black woman through and through, and there's just some things as a Black woman, there's no bypassing. There's no excuses for it. So I saw this friend's story, and she had posted very vague but right-leaning things on her socials before, and I had figured since she saw my post in 2020, she watched all of them. Remember, we're good friends. And she still remained my friend. I still remained her friend. We still hung out, actually, a bit. And her family, too. Me and her family. So it was a breath of fresh air to know that I have more conservative friends who still hold values. And I never asked her directly who she voted for during that year, nor do I really care. But I think it's more about the values that you uphold. And so I had figured that all the people who supported that man had been squared away. I took care of it 4 years ago. Fast forward, I see this Instagram story, and I've seen others, and I just look at them and I carry on. This time I actually wanted to engage, so I asked her a question, and that question was, how do you feel about his felony background? Did that impact your views of him at all? And my friend responded and said, it definitely did, but politicizing the death of service members is not something I will stand for on either side. Her death changed things for women in the military, and it should mean something more than exploiting it for votes. And I could not agree more with her. This friend, my ad, also was in the military. She comes from a military family as well. She has served. And I also want to add another detail. This friend is also engaged to a Latino man. So there are a lot of nuances at play in her as a person, in our friendship, and in this dynamic that we're now diving into. Let me continue. I responded to her. I said, I do agree with you, but both sides have a long history of doing such, unfortunately. For me, my biggest issues with Trump are that he's attempting to shift the economy into a privatized structure which would give people with money more power, deepen the earnings gap, especially for those who are of color or not able-bodied, and defund education or privatize it, which would lead to more bias, disinformation, and discrimination. The fact that he's a rapist, felon, and morally obtuse are just cherries on top. Sounds concise to me, right? Did that friend respond to me? No. And I figured, oh, it's 2 p.m. on a Friday. Life's busy. She just got engaged. She'll get to me when she can, because that's how I respond to messages. Nothing is pressing to me anymore. Anytime I've had that mentality, I have been mentally unwell. Now I have more of a laissez-faire approach to social media, at least personally, which has benefited me a lot, and therefore I don't take offense if people take a long time to respond to any messages that I would send to them on social media platforms. Maybe a week after that message, I get a notification on Instagram, and the notification says that this friend of mine had just responded to my comment where I had congratulated her on her engagement. Now, this engagement was posted maybe a week or two prior to this phone conversation, but I thought it was weird that she had responded to that comment and not yet to my message. So I thought to myself, you know what, maybe she did respond, I just didn't see the notification. Let me go back to our DMs. I went back to my DMs and she did not respond. In fact, the little delivered notification that you see on Instagram when you send a message, it wasn't there anymore. For me, I'm a social media manager. I know what that represents. It means that she put she put our conversation in the restricted folder. I've seen it many times. I've had to do it myself with my job. I know what it means. I've been in this field for a decade, over a decade. I know what it means when someone hides your messages. I know what it looks like. And once I noticed that, my heart dropped to my stomach because I thought to myself, wow, she's able to say thank you with the crying emojis on this comment, but she can't respond to the DM even though we were just actively speaking. So I was like, you know what? Let me give her the benefit of the doubt. After all, I'm sure she doesn't want to muddle her happy time period, being engaged, about to be a wife. That's exciting. And I'm fucking excited for her. She deserves all the love in the world. So I was like, you know what? Let me not react. At this time, I was already irritated with a lot of the conversations going on politically. And so I was like, you know what? We shall continue to give grace, because that is what I would have wanted to be done to me. So I gave it another couple days. And by this point, I was actively monitoring her socials. I was seeing she was posting stories, she was commenting, she was alive. She was commenting on Facebook too. So was her mama. Everybody talking about Trump or just going on about their lives. And I just found it really weird that, my homegirl, whose face I have in a necklace that I wear, has not responded yet. And that's when I got pissed. And initially I thought to myself, that's so disrespectful. She's my friend. She should feel comfortable talking to me, even about conversations like this. I know she's not racist. That's never been a question of mine. But I do think that the conversation, the topic of morals definitely came up and has been a hot topic in the last month. And I really want to know where she stands, not only because she is a veteran and has certain views of the military in our country, but also because she is about to marry a man of color. Meanwhile, Trump is trying to deport his kind. So it wasn't adding up to me. And so I was really heated, but I was like, you know what? I don't know what's going on in her life. She could be going through a lot right now, and I just am not abreast of it yet. So I ended up sending her one more message. And I said this. I said, I have more questions because you're one of the few Trump supporters I know. But if you're not up for talking about it, I get it. With a heart emoji. I have not heard from that friend since. It was really upsetting in the moment to recognize the situation unfolding because, for one, I value this person. I don't take the term friend lightly. I don't take having photos of people in my house lightly. So just know that there was a lot of love there, and there still is. I'm not going to just cut off all feelings simply because I've decided to step away from a friendship. The anger came not from the fact that this person is a Trump supporter. The anger came from a deeper level. I thought to myself, and I was thinking about this scenario, this conversation between me and my friend for at least a week after. And as the days would go by, I would get more and more pissed. And then I started analyzing myself and being critical of myself. What did I say? Was it offensive? Did I say too much? Did I do too much? Was I overly opinionated? Did I not send a message that was welcoming of a conversation or dialogue? What was the issue? I broke down everything. I don't see any harm there, especially as this friend, like I said, had been very open about her right-leaning views. So I was already expecting her to have a right-leaning mindset. I wanted to understand. That's the whole reason why I even questioned in the first place. Because what I could have done was just simply delete, unfollow, block, all that stuff. I could have done all that, but I didn't. I asked questions. That's what you do when you're trying to understand, you're trying to learn, you're trying to compromise, you're trying to grow. You ask questions. Problem was not with the fact that she is the Trump supporter, but the fact that there was something within her that she did not feel comfortable enough to tell me. And I thought to myself, what could that possibly be? It can't be race, could it? It can't be about the fact that I was mean. I quite literally wasn't. And I also followed up to soften it even more by saying, hey, if you don't, want to talk about this, I totally get it. Crazy times right now. But the fact that she didn't even respond to say, yeah, it's just a bit much for me to talk about right now, but I hope you're doing well. She could have anything. She could have even gave me a thumbs up. I think I would have accepted that even more than just dead silence, because at that point, that tells me, fuck you, Tanaye. I don't give a fuck about you. Shut the fuck up. Get out of my face. I don't care about you. What kind of friend would behave like that? Not a friend of mine. So after I sent that last message, I waited a few more days. I went on Facebook because she's more active there. And then I happened to stumble upon her mother's Facebook page. And I also know that her mother has right-leaning views. Fine. I'm a moderate. So I really like to understand both sides because I don't fall on either side. I probably do lean more liberal, but I am very willing and open to hear other people's perspectives. That's how we live. That's how we grow as human beings. On her mother's page was a lot of openness about her position in supporting Trump. And I have to be honest, I was very petty, and Lord forgive me, I'm working on myself every day. Under her last Facebook post regarding Trump and why he's an amazing man and he deserves this, she expressed why she was proud to vote for him and that her parents would have voted for him too. And I just commented and I said, thanks for sharing, good to know. And then I promptly unfriended the mother and unfriended my friend on all platforms. For me, once the friend showed me that they don't give a bleep about just common decency and decorum, that's when I put the wall up. You don't get access to me anymore when you behave that way. If you're going to, a person who has the balls to share their right-leaning ideology in every space, but in the space of their black friend, that friend is no longer safe. And so I acted accordingly. I removed myself. It was that simple. And I'm not gonna lie, about a week after that, I was just fuming internally. By that time, the election results had already come to be, and it was just a lot of mixed emotions because I'm really disappointed in the way the election went simply because we are no longer safe. If we were safe before, we damn sure ain't gonna be now. It's not really about a win or lose when it comes to elections, which I don't think a lot of people really consider. The media tries to gamify it, but this isn't a game. We're supposed to seek people. We're supposed to elect politicians who serve our better interests. But when you overlook a politician who is a sexual offender, a multi-count felon, says very racist remarks, prioritizes only himself, and only prioritizes people who can help him gain more power, that's not a man of value. That is not a man of God. I don't even know how any Christian could ever vote for a man like that. But that's neither here nor there. I have had to act accordingly. I thought I cleaned house in 2020. I had to clean house again. And then that brings me to another friend of mine, my longest friend actually. We had to have another uncomfortable conversation because in 2020, she decided to put her head in the sand. And me and her had a really tough 2-hour conversation. Me and my longest friend, we had a long conversation, and I told her why it's important for her to be aware and why I need her to be aware for the sake of me, my family, my future kids, who she would become the godmother of. I was very detailed. It was emotional. I cried. She cried. It was a lot. And she said she would do better. Fast forward. She didn't vote. She was reluctant to tell me she didn't vote, but I pulled it out of her. She's my best friend. And I think all the rage that I had felt from friend number one trickled into my reaction to friend number two, who, not to compare, I hold more dear. And I think a lot of the things I said to friend number two, friend number one needed to hear those same things too. But I'm not going to get into the details of all of that conversation, but needless to say, it's been a very hard last few weeks for me. Just seeing some of the people who I hold closest to my heart, it's been very challenging to know that the people I hold closest to my heart don't share the same morals as me. It's heartbreaking. If you're my friend, you're family, so it's very hard for me to go through a loss like that. It's like a breakup. It's consumed me like a breakup. And I hate that I've even allowed that energy to flow through me, the anger, the irritation, the sadness, the guilt, the fear. I haven't been sleeping well either, but at the end of the day, that's not a friend. And so it came to a point in this cyclone of emotion that I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my vibe check segment to call out friend number one. I'm going to write her a Dear John letter, and I'm going to read it here on camera. And so even that idea I sat on for a few days. Everything I do, I really think about deeply. And I thought to myself, well, that's a bit catty. That's kind of distasteful if I were to do that. It's very combative. That's not something that I like to do. And might I add, at the same time, I was getting a lot of evil, nasty comments from Trump supporters on my Instagram because I posted a video. It didn't say anything. There were no words, no caption, nothing. It was simply me with a text that said, how was your day? This was posted 4 days after the election or so. And I simply came into frame, took off my sunglasses, slid off my wig, dropped my purse off my shoulder, ripped the vote tag off of my bag, and walked off camera. And I received some of the nastiest hate. It's really funny because it's all from men who are 3 times as old as me, no hair, pot belly, no tea, no shade, but like, fella, go sit down somewhere. But I had to go through a lot of emotions on all different fronts. And then even work was like crazy about this election too. So it's just, there was no safe space for me right now. So I'm going through this cyclone of emotions, and I'm getting angrier and angrier, and I'm recognizing as I'm thinking about doing this vibe check segment that that's not in my character to call out someone like that. Now, Mark Zuckerberg deserved it. Absolutely. He is hurting us, he's harming us, and he's getting away with it. Bad people don't deserve good things. And people in power owe it to society to always try to be the best they can be and to always be good. That's the Christian thing to do. That aside, I recognize that me and my emotions and my decision to address this friend on camera, snub her like that, is not a Christian thing to do. And I've been on my Christ journey for about 1.5 years. And every time I'm in a conflict, one of the first things I think of is, what would Jesus do? And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's really not cliche because it's Jesus. But I thought to myself, first of all, Jesus wouldn't be arguing with anyone in the Instagram comments. Jesus wouldn't be allowing this person to get him worked up. Jesus wouldn't even be stressed about this right now. And I really had to think to myself, where's the issue lying? And the issue is lying within me. And so for this vibe check segment, I'm checking myself because for a brief time, I was out of character. I was combative with trolls in my comment section. I was dissing them the way they would diss me. Maybe I could have gone harder, to be very honest, but I gotta keep it cute. I kept it cute, but still, arguing with people is something I've never wanted to do. And to just see that vitriol coming from online, the discomfort from my friends, the anxiety at work, I recognize that the person who needs to be vibe checked is me. So over the last few weeks, I've been trying to get my vibe back in check. I've been consistently doing yoga now. I found this Black-owned yoga studio in my neighborhood. I'm so thankful. It's helped me a lot physically and mentally. I go to acupuncture weekly, which is such a blessing. Highly recommend. And I think most importantly, I've been speaking with friends, close friends and family about how I've been feeling, how I'm angry and I don't know what to do with my emotion, and also how are they feeling, checking in on them and seeing if there's a way for us to find a solution together. And I'm so thankful for the friends who checked on me. I'm so thankful for the friends who were so honest with me. Hey, I know we're supposed to hang out today, but I don't think I'm going to be a fun time. You know, the friends who heard me say that and understood and was like, listen, if you ever just want to sit and just not talk, I'm here with you. I appreciate those people. Those are the type of people I want in my corner. Those are the type of people who matter to me, and I can tell I matter to them. I want to close this vibe check segment by asking you to look within yourself. How have you been feeling over the last few weeks? I know some of you may have been very happy, others maybe not so much. And have you been able to check yourself, check your emotions, and see if there's any spaces where you can be better? I share my situation very vulnerably to provide an example of what a lot of us are going through right now. A lot of us Black people, people of color, LGBTQ plus people, we're all going through this very uncomfortable phase where there's a shift. We notice the friends who have spoken up about stuff. We notice the friends who are too quiet. There's a huge shift right now in this world. We all feel it. And right now it's a bit sinister. I do feel like it will alleviate, God, please. But in the midst of all this chaos, try to be the peace and the happiness and the joy that you so desperately seek. That's what I've been trying to do. That's what I've been trying to focus on. It's helped me incredibly. So yeah, today, you checked. Okay, that aside, I really am excited to get into fact or feeling because, as I mentioned earlier, this week we're talking a lot about baby mama culture. As a Black woman, it's always been very evident to me that we are at risk for nearly everything more than other people. Black people and people of color in general have been marginalized for generations, since the beginning of time, basically. And fast forward to now, in this present day, I feel like baby mama culture, especially for Black women, has become rampant. And it's really confusing knowing all of the statistics that face us over the challenges that we specifically have to overcome more than any other individual on this planet. And we still are so flagrant with our womb and our health. That's something that scares me. And I really wanted to lean into the conversations that we're seeing right now about baby mama culture, about successful Black women who are having children out of wedlock without any safety net or security or contract. It's worrying. It's very concerning. And this is not for me to shame any single parent or baby mama. This is not that. You can go to a different podcast if you want to hear that. For me, I just want to lean into the facts and lean into the personal narratives of what that actually looks like. So I found some statistics that I just wanted to dive into. It's not really going to be a feeling moment this week. It'll be more about facts, but I hope that by the end of this segment, you'll understand where I'm getting at. These are important facts that I think every person needs to know. 1, we always think about the mother, the father, the sex, and the lack of a ring, but we never really talk about the children who are impacted. Did you know sorry, I'm reading from my laptop. Did you know that children in single-parent family homes are at a higher risk for mental illness? This is true. Higher rates of depression, anxiety, as well as behavioral issues like drug abuse, violence. Another fact, health is worse among lone mothers than for mothers living as couples, even when controlling for socioeconomic characteristics. So let's say you have a white woman and a Black woman who both live in middle-class households. They are single mothers. The health conditions of the Black women will be significantly worse than that of the white women. Black women are more than 3 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related issues compared to white women. Black women experience higher rates of severe maternal complications such as preeclampsia, eclampsia, postpartum hemorrhage, all that can lead to long-term issues. So I feel like a lot of, especially younger mothers, only think about the 9 months and then the baby. But even as your body has healed and you're no longer carrying a precious life inside, you are still going to be dealing with the long-term effects of some of these conditions. It's not a guarantee every time, but we are at a higher rate for it. We have to protect our womb. And I'm going to share a few more details that I thought were really interesting. This has to These statistics have to deal with the percentage of single mothers across races. So for Black women, nearly 70% of births are to unmarried mothers. We are the highest category of women who are unwed but give birth. Following that are Hispanic or Latino women, 52%. 52% of births occur outside of marriage. For non-Hispanic white women, around 28% of births are to unmarried mothers. And then, which I thought was very interesting, when we get into Asian and Pacific Islander women, approximately 15% of all births are to unmarried mothers, with a significant variation across the subgroups. So for Native Hawaiian women, 51% have birth while unmarried, compared to 6% for Chinese American women, and then 10% for Japanese American women. So you see how the percentages go down as the importance of marriage increases across cultures. There's more I could say on that, but I'll let y'all let that linger, sit on it, let it marinate, and you comment and you tell me how you feel about hearing these statistics. Do they worry you? Do they mean nothing to you? I really would like to know. Okay guys, now we are going to get into the deep dive. So for the deep dive, like I said, I did want to talk about motherhood and birthhood. I think especially for Black women like myself, it's very concerning to see how lackadaisic there is in the mentality, especially of our youth today, when it comes to getting pregnant and being a baby mother, being a single mother. It's actually alarming. It's not taken seriously at all. The fact that you could die isn't taken seriously. The fact that you can have long-term health conditions aren't taken seriously. It's almost like it's a comedic joke. I'm not going to approach it from what we commonly see in the media and online. I'm not here to shame baby mothers. I'm not here to condemn what they do. I'm not here to condemn or shame single fathers. Right now, my focus is simply on the children, and that's because I was one of them. My mother was a single mother, and for the first years of my life, it was just me and her. We were living in Baltimore. We were living in a family home. We had a room that we shared together, and my mom worked her ass off to make sure that we were good. My mom worked 2 full-time jobs. She worked her daytime 9 to 5 and then her nighttime 1 to 2. And in the meantime, my family, who I'm so thankful for, I can't thank them enough, because my family, what I realize now, but it wasn't obvious to me when I was a kid, was that they rallied around my mom. My aunts, my uncles, my grandma, my great-grandmothers, they rallied around us. Every holiday was filled with happiness, joy, toys, presents, the whole nine. Every cookout was filled with kids and cousins and fun and just abundance and blessings. Even living in a city like Baltimore, we still had it well. Yes, maybe we were not the wealthiest. Maybe we didn't have everything. We didn't have the nicest cars, the nicest house, but we had each other. And I can never take my family for granted. I love my family so much. Anyways, back to my mom. My mom was a single mother. She had me when she was 22 years old. She was actually supposed to walk across the stage with me still in her belly, but I came a bit early. I came a couple weeks before she actually graduated with her degree from Morgan State. So shout out to anyone who goes to HBCU. But my mom worked her ass off. I don't think she's ever described not being prepared for the situation. She loves to joke about her out-of-body experience while she was giving birth to me. But my mom has always spoken about her drive, her ambition. My mom has always been goal-oriented, and I think that I am a reflection of a lot of my mom. I love her. I'm so thankful for her. And while I have never had the chance to meet my biological father, when I was 5 years old, my mom was dating this man who would then soon become my adopted dad. So to give you a synopsis, my mom met my dad, who lived in Connecticut at the time, and after I finished kindergarten, she decided to pick us up and move us to Connecticut to live with my dad. And so we lived with him for 2 years before they got married, and I was so excited. I was actually calling him my dad before he even put a ring on my mom. I was like really, really excited to have a father figure. Before that, I had a few father figures. I had my Uncle Tony, who would take me everywhere with him. I love him so much. God bless his soul. He passed away a couple years ago. But no, he passed away last year. Oh, time flies. Sad. My Uncle Tony, who passed away last year, he probably has been the best example of what it means to be a supportive father figure. He's my mom's brother. My mom has 2 brothers. My Uncle Troy was living in Philly at the time. So my Uncle Tony didn't live too far away. He would take me to all his barbershop appointments. If I wanted to get a slushie from 7-Eleven, we would take joy rides and go get that. He really spoiled me, and he was always proud of me, and he wanted me to see the world. And so while my mom was preoccupied and busy and often working, I spent a lot of time with my Uncle Tony, my cousin Ermine, my cousin Marion, who were grandparent figures to me, my Aunt Monica, who had a child my age, my cousin Jessie. We hung out all the time. Like, though there was a missing element in the household, which would be a father, I still had not much to need for. It's beautiful. I think my situation is very unique because I have a very supportive, loving family. I have a very supportive, loving, ambitious mother. I have incredibly intelligent parents. I've really lucked out on the way that this path progressed from birth to now as a 32-year-old. Another thing that I want to really emphasize is how much of a stand-up guy my dad is. When we talk about baby mama culture today, we don't really talk about the man. Another thing that I want to really emphasize is how much of a stand-up guy my dad is. When we talk about baby mama culture today, we don't really talk about the man and the part that men play. How much of a stand-up guy my dad is. When we talk about baby mama culture today, we talk about the man and the part play in creating the child. Why do we only ever chastise the woman and not the man who planted it there in the first place? My dad has never treated me anything but like his daughter. He is just a great guy. He's funny, he's ambitious, he's a veteran. He's super nerdy, super smart. Both of my parents are. What I really love about my dad is that the second Connecticut, he ensured I had a sick-ass childhood. He taught me how to ride a bike, loop together, play basketball in the yard, jump on the trampoline, climb the tree house with me. I recognize now as an adult how much of an exemplary of a man my dad is. And I wish that more men had that attitude and that aptitude, because the missing piece of a child's life, which is the second parent, we feel it. The fact that I can describe to you all moments that happened to me when I was in Baltimore before I moved to Connecticut, and the significant moments that happened to me after I moved to Connecticut, including I went from living in a predominantly Black society to a society where I was one of families of color. There was a lot of different changes, but in all of that chaos, I can still recognize how dope my parents are and were and are still. Getting into the child's perspective of things started to shift for me in myself. Not proud to say it, but in my diaries, I would often refer to myself as a bastard child. I was really angry because I didn't have all of why do we move to Connecticut? Why do we have to put me in a situation where I'm getting bullied different because I have different cultural ways? And I started to resent both of my parents for moving. Had a lot of self-esteem issues, and I think it was because, yes, the society, the town that I lived in lacked diversity, and so I had to find confidence within myself in ways that your typical child would not have to go through. I also because I'm an introvert, it was very hard for me to make friends or to feel comfortable making friends. I know now that I've had social anxiety my entire life, but I can tell you the first time I ever felt anxiety, it was when I was in kindergarten. It was gym class. I think we were going to play kickball. They were picking teams. I was picked last. And I sat, once they called my name, I just sat on the gym floor. I didn't move. I just cried against the wall. And I don't remember if a teacher came over to me, but I just remember crying against the wall. I just had a lot of anxiety about not feeling accepted or welcome. And then moved to Connecticut. I felt that times 10. So it was very hard for me to get acclimated. And while this does play a part into the baby mama culture, it also just has to do with parents being aware of the mental health of their kids. My mom did what was right for her. She found love. She married him. They've been married ever since. My dad, he married my mom. He's been a great father figure. They had another kid, my brother. They did all the things right. But I will say that especially when it comes to people who come from impoverished backgrounds, like my parents did. My mom was raised in inner city Baltimore, and my dad's from the Bronx. So they've seen both sides of life. And I think that what drove my parents to become as successful as they were is the fact that they lived in those conditions. So fast forward, raising me and my brother, the only things that really made sense to focus on were, is there a roof over your head? Is there food on the table? Are you fed? Are you washed? Do we have electricity? Do we have heat? We've had all of that. We lived a very nice life. I would say middle class, maybe even upper middle class. I also remember when we moved to Connecticut and my dad had this massive house. I thought it was a freaking castle. It was just something I've never seen before. Being a little Black girl living in Baltimore, it was very mesmerizing to see the world in a different way. I also feel like I started to stand my intellect when I moved to Connecticut. I didn't feel stupid and confused anymore. I finally started to feel like I was learning things and retaining information. And very early on, I recognized how poor of a school system I was in Baltimore and how great of a school system I was in Connecticut. Those are things that I can never fault my parents for. But as a child, the things that we don't recognize, the things that parents don't recognize, is that your child notices the things that you think they don't. I always knew that there was a missing piece in my life, which would have been my biological father. And I would often ask my mom as a child, where's my dad? Is he down the street? Is he out of town? Why is it that all my other friends have a mom and a dad, but I only have a mom? And then we had this well in the front yard of my childhood home in Baltimore. And I would ask my mom, is dad buried in there? I figured he must have been dead. So while parents, and especially blended families, you may think that your child is young, they won't remember. We always remember. And matter of fact, we hold it with us for our entire lives. I say that because I do think that missing element did play a part in how I viewed myself and my self-esteem. I was never a girl who was I was never the loudest in the room, but I always stood out as if I were the loudest simply because I was a tall black girl. I was the tallest kid in my class for up and through middle school, and I just wanted to blend in. And so a lot of the depression that I would grow to develop between middle school through now, it started because I didn't felt like I belonged. And so I would write in my journals about, why am I even alive? I'm not even supposed to be here. My mom didn't need to have me. I don't want to live. I don't want to be here. I'm ugly. No boy wants me. I have braces. I got pimples. No one understands. My friends don't understand me. My parents don't understand me. There was definitely a need for therapy for me. I can acknowledge that. I can also acknowledge that as a child of a single mother, there were some elements that I took in subconsciously. I think the biggest thing that I took in was that I want to ensure that I make my mom proud. I want to do my best so that I can make my mom proud, so that she doesn't feel like she had to sacrifice her life for a bastard child like me. And I think I wear that coat of armor. Every day I try my hardest. I do my best because that's what I was taught to do. That's what I was raised to do. And I did pretty well, if I must say myself. But there was a lot of pressure that I had put on myself to not be a burden to my mom, because I knew it was hard for her. And my dad has always been supportive, and I can definitely see how he relieved a lot of the stress and hardships that my mom went through. By the way, both my parents are working parents to this day. They both work full-time, always will. I just noticed how it was a relief to have a stable father figure in our lives for me, and a husband for my mom. I recognized that I didn't want to be a burden to my mom because she already had to, go through hell and high water just to birth me. I want to make sure that she gets the return on her investment. And then for my dad, he's never made me feel unwanted, but I also thought to myself, I also want to be a perfect kid for my dad so that he always likes me. These are words that I've never said out loud to my parents, but there was a lot of pressure, to be honest, a lot of self-hatred, because I was like, maybe her life could have been better had I just not been born. And then when you add the fact that I was slowly falling into depression around these years as well, I was just a wreck. I was so angry. I was so sad. I would play Coldplay on my iPod Nano, put it in my ears and fall asleep with it. That's the only way I could fall asleep sometimes. I listened to sad songs because the sad songs were the only songs that made me feel seen. And all the while, I would wake up and smack a smile on my face and get A's or straight B's and excel in sports and try to be a good example for my little brother. I was doing all of these things, but feeling so conflicted on the inside because I felt like I didn't matter and I didn't deserve the good things. And because I felt that way, it only made me want to try even harder. So that's how I became, what's the word that they call it? High functioning depression. I was so depressed. But from the outside looking in, you wouldn't have been able to tell because I was doing so well. And so fast forward to 2020, I'm living in the house with my parents, my brother, which I had mentioned in our previous episode. Some of those unaddressed emotions from my teenage years came to a head, and there was a moment that I had with my parents. We had a really hard conversation about my suicidal ideation my junior year of high school. It was never addressed then, but it was addressed in 2020. And one of the things that have stuck with me is that my parents said, what they said to me was, we didn't know that you were suffering so badly because you were doing so well. And I think those words stuck with me because I was doing so well for a multitude of reasons. I was doing so well so I didn't disappoint them. I was doing so well so I could prove to my white friends that I was not the dumb, ignorant, poor, fast black girl that they would see in movies and TV and media. I did it a lot to prove my value and my worth, which is dangerous because what happens when you fail? Does that mean you don't have worth? These are emotions I had to go through as an adult. I had to work through these childhood traumatic moments. And I share this testimony because now, more than ever, it seems like in our community, in the community of Black people, we don't take our lives seriously. We don't take our family seriously anymore. We don't take our right to live as free people in this country. We take it for granted. And I think when it comes to raising children to be the best people they can be, we also take that for granted. It makes no sense that in today's age, we have teenagers who are proudly saying, I want to be a baby mama before I'm 21. What about a college degree? What about a passion that you can accomplish? What about getting a dog? What about just finding your own place, not living with your parents anymore? When did having a child equate to success? And of course, yes, to have a child is a blessing. To give birth and survive is a blessing. But when you're young, you don't take into account all of the things that you have to go through with being a single parent. You don't take into account that your food bills are going to increase. Childcare is $200,000. And don't even get me started on applying and paying for college. I already mentioned I'm in student loan debt. There are a lot of things that come after the baby. People are only thinking about the sex in the child, the dick, and the newborn. But what about the after? If you survive your childbirth, if you don't have any complications, if you make it home and you don't have blood clots that impacts your ability to move, if you don't suffer from postpartum depression, if you have a family who's going to rally around you and support you as you go out and find a job or go back to school so you can earn enough money to take care of you and your kids, if you have all of those things, why at the baseline, if you survive and go through all of those things, why? The question I ask myself is, why would you want to subject yourself to starting 10 steps back than another person? Why would you want to make it more difficult for you to find success in life? And I don't mean success as in a job or being a celebrity or anything like that. I mean success as in just being able to set yourself up for the best of any and everything. When you have a child young, you're more likely to be impoverished. Your child is more likely to have temperamental issues. Your child is more likely to be depressed, as I mentioned earlier. And same for you. You're going to have higher stress levels. We already talked about the physical changes that your body will go through during pregnancy and after. Why would you want to do all of that hardship on your own? Yes, life is a beautiful thing. Yes, raising a child is a beautiful thing. It's a blessing. We will never overlook that. But why would you want to make it harder for yourself? Don't you want a partner who can help you? Don't you want a partner who can take the kids while you got this meeting or while you're interviewing for this new job? Don't you want to be able to afford to send your kids off to the best school or the best sports camp possible? Why do you want to settle for baby mamahood? Why would you settle for the bare minimum? Now, I know not everyone believes in marriage for their own personal reasons. I get it. Most marriages fail today. But marriage is so significant because it is a contract to protect you. You can take out life insurance on your partner. God forbid anything happens to them. You can go into the hospital room if anything happens to your partner. You don't have to bear the brunt of life on your own when you have a partner. Life is not meant to be done alone. That's why that's why God made man and woman. It wasn't ever just woman, and it wasn't ever just man. There is unison, there's harmony. The partnership between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, a woman and a woman. I'm not biased by any means. The partnership, the love that comes from two individuals, that love ultimately sets your child up for more success. Why would you ever want them to have less than that? Don't you want them to see positive examples of love? Don't you want them to aspire to be like mommy and daddy? I ask these questions not to shame, but I ask them to wonder if you have thought of it. If you can afford to be a single parent, by all means, go do it. There's so many kids out here who need parents. The adoption centers are full. We do need more parents. It doesn't matter if you're single or not. But when you are a youngin', when you're a freshman in high school or a senior in college, and your only goal after you get your degree or after you get your diploma is to become a baby mama, what am I missing? As a child of a single mother, witnessing it intimately as my mom hustled, grinded, all the things so that she could do better, so that I could do better, I just find it mind-boggling how the goal of being a single parent is a goal at all. And I think of the emotional challenges that I thought of and I went through and I experienced and I felt through the years, even after my dad came in the picture, because I still remember that my mom was a single mother and she needed help. And while she got that help, many people who are talking about being a single parent, y'all are not thinking about that. Some of you, unfortunately, don't have community around you to ensure that your child is safe while you're at work or you're at school. Some of you don't have the community or the support system to ensure that your child is safe from any weirdos or creeps while you're in the kitchen and they're playing in the backyard. Life is not perfect. Life is not linear. Neither is parenthood or childhood. But there are things that we can do our best to achieve so that our kids have the best, so that they have better than us. And I feel like I'm a reflection of that because my mom worked her butt off so that she would never have to go through some of the challenges she went through in her life. Same with my dad. Me and my brother are super blessed, super privileged. I've never had to go through lights being turned off. I've never had to go hungry. I've never had any of that. My parents are very frugal. They're very smart with their money. They save it well. I haven't picked up those traits just yet. They did great things because they knew what they deserved. They knew they deserved better, and they worked their asses off to get it. Now, as the child of that, the culmination of those decisions, I want to do better, not only for me and for my baby kids one day, if I ever choose to have them. I'll also do it to help my parents as they age. Everything is connected. It's not just about you. And it's not just about you and the child. There are so many things in life that are all connected. One decision leads to another outcome, and that leads to another outcome, and one after that. It's not a singular moment where, oh, I'm a baby mama, whatever, I'm gonna get my child support. That's not living. And with the history of our ancestors, the only thing they want for us, the only thing they would want for us is for us to live to our fullest, to be our freest. And y'all are actively choosing to be the opposite. And for what? For a simple night of pleasure? A flagrant decision to not wear protection? God forbid you catch something. And then let's say, you know what? You're saying right now to yourself, Tanaye, I don't care. It sounds like you're judging. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna be a single mother. I can raise the money. The government got me, blah, 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 blah. Yes, that is all true. But you could have had more. I think we limit our minds when we think that life is only this one step. Motherhood, marriage. Life is so much more than that. If I had a kid right now, I don't think I would have seen as much of the world as I have had. I don't think I would be in certain situations financially that I am. Life would definitely be different. And because I've witnessed it intimately in real time from my mom, I really can't see how anyone would willingly choose to have a harder life. And I know it's hard to find love. I know it's hard to find a trusted partner, but those things are worth waiting for. There's no rush. The only rush should be into loving yourself and giving you the best of you. The child will come. The more you love yourself, the love will come tenfold to your child. It drives me mad trying to wrap my head around why people are reaching for such low branches when there's literally stairs built on that tree so that you can climb to the top. And again, I'm not condemning single mothers, single fathers, baby mamas. We're past that now. We've had those conversations. Those conversations are tired. The question now is, why are you willing to sell yourself so short so soon? At least wait for your frontal lobe to develop. Y'all making brash decisions that are going to impact you for the rest of your life and for the rest of your child's life. And like I said, your child will not forget it. You can try your hardest, you can move them around, you can find the best man or woman or partner. Your child will never forget witnessing their parents struggle. Your child will never forget you and your boyfriend or your girlfriend yelling while the child is sitting crying in the corner because they're scared. There are moments that a child just will never forget. And there are moments that as a single parent, you will inevitably have to go through. I say this with love. Want more for yourself. Want more for your future kids. Want more for your existing kids. Would it be so crazy for me to ask for you to do better for yourself and want more for yourself? Don't you want more for your kids too? I ask myself these questions all the time when I keep seeing these celebrities and friends of friends having children out of wedlock. And I also find it very interesting to see this younger generation, Gen Z, just not taking it seriously. Giving birth, baking a child is life risking and so incredibly challenging. And it's not just 18 years. You care for that child forever. That child will always be your child. You could be 40 years old. I'm 32. I'm still my parents' child. I think we should all collectively agree to just start wanting more for ourselves. Just understand that there is safety, there is security, there is certain amounts of certainty that come with a nuclear family and a marriage. Babies are a blessing. Children are a blessing. But the decision on when you have them could make or break your blessings. I just wonder if we've really thought about the entire recipe before we baked the cake. Take your time, slow down, rewrite the recipe, babes, because a lot of y'all are thinking too lightly of this significant life-changing event that is motherhood and birthhood. I would love to see the day where we stop having these conversations and stop selling ourselves short as Black women. As the most powerful beings on this planet, women deserve the world, and I'll be damned if we continue to sell ourselves short. We all deserve better than that, and I want better for you. And I hope that me sharing my testimony from a child's perspective inspires you to rethink some of those decisions. Thank y'all for listening to this deep dive. Okay, that was a lot. I know, that was very heavy, and that's why I like to end every episode with a mindful mantra. So the mindful mantra for this week is, you're not defined by your circumstances or society's labels. Your worth comes from the love you give, the choices you make, and the values you live by. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight as I do. It's always a pleasure to chat with y'all. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you next Sunday.